From the Arizona Daily Star and Tucson.com, this is the Wildcast.
It's been a minute, but we are back to be talking all things Arizona Wildcats basketball on the Wildcast podcast. Thank you for tuning in, whether you're listening via Spotify, Apple, or other podcasting platforms, or even that Wildcaster app, which you should definitely download off the App Store and Google Play. It's a fun time to follow Arizona Wildcats basketball as we officially enter the postseason. It is March Madness, y'all.
It is. It is exciting time. Both men's and women's team have legitimate shots to make a Final Four run, and it's been a long time coming, especially for the men's team, to be in this position where they're heavy favorites to A, win the Pac-12 tournament this coming weekend, and then B, one of the top four teams, earn a number one seed and have a good path to a potential Final Four berth. So, Justin, we've got a lot to talk about. But first podcast in a while, we did a Twitter Spaces last week, and it was very successful. So for people that don't follow us on Twitter or are unfamiliar with Twitter Spaces, it's a live podcast form. So it's like this, but we're live on Twitter. And Justin went live from his account, and I was kind of a co-host alongside him, and we interacted with U of A fans that joined. So if you want to have live interaction with us throughout this tournament, because we're going to be doing more of that as we go along, follow Justin Esports on Twitter. He's going to be the main man setting up our Twitter Spaces at the Pac-12 tournament. So live interaction, you can chime in with your thoughts. Perfect platform outside of the podcast arena here.
Thank you for plugging that in, because I completely forgot about. Well, I knew we were going to be doing the Twitter Spaces, but I completely forgot about promoting it, and that was really fun, right? I think with technology and how media is evolving, the fact that you can jump on a social media platform like Twitter and just have an audio only, just roundtable discussion with other Arizona fans, I think is great.
It is, yeah. And people were chiming in, asking different things. And one thing that stood out to me was just how invested some people are in certain aspects of the program. Like somebody, I forget the guy's name, but he went and has seen Kylan Boswell play several times at Centennial throughout his high school career, and was telling us how legit this guy's going to be. So you just kind of hear different perspectives from the fans, and it's really awesome.
Let's see if we can get Bruce on. Bruce Pascoe has a large following.
He does.
On Twitter, so it'd be cool to get him on the Twitter Spaces. So, yeah, we're going to be doing Twitter Spaces during the Pac-12 tournament. If you have Twitter, great. You can join in on the conversation. You can listen. Let us know what you think about it. It's a great time, and we're going to be doing it every day while we're out there in Las Vegas after Arizona basketball games, and we'll keep you posted on when we are going live. Again, it's kind of like play it by ear, because we have to do our job for the Star first. Like we have to write and
hit our deadlines.
Hit deadlines, hit the post game videos, update our social platforms. But once we're all done with that, we're gonna allow the storm to kind of settle in, and then we'll hop into space and we'll talk Arizona basketball in Las Vegas.
And as we're talking about this, another thing people can watch out for, because I'm getting text messages about it right now, is our U of A Hoops special section, men's and women's special section in the Tucson, Tucson.com and the Arizona Daily Star tomorrow. The e-edition, it's online. The Wildcaster, you can get all of those stories right there. So if you want to read about what we talk on this podcast, it's going to great breakdowns of the tournament and all things U of A hoops. So
you
lots of plugging.
Some fans, right?
I did. It was really cool. Fans, I mean, this one U of A student, he and his dad, it was the student's first time going in 2020. The first game, it was when everything got canceled. So now they had to make a point of it to get back. Like that was the guy's first experience at the Pac-12 tournament, was when COVID shut it down.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. There's another guy that lives 5 miles from T-Mobile and is a U of A grad, and so they all go out and tailgate and do all these fun things. So
that's awesome, man.
Vegas is going to be U of A Central times 2 this year.
Well, remember, last time Arizona was in the Pac-12 tournament was when the whole world turned upside down. And, I asked Christian Coloco during the press conference today, what do you remember about that whole experience? And he was saying, we played Washington. Next thing you know, we're talking about conference tournaments getting canceled, and Sean Miller told them, we're watching film until they tell us we're not playing basketball anymore. That's what Christian Coloco said. He's like, they were getting ready to play USC, I think, the next day.
Yeah.
And all these conference tournaments were getting canceled left and right. And Sean Miller told the team, we're watching film until they tell us we can. And next thing you know, the entire Pac-12 tournament is canceled. The NCAA tournament gets canceled the next morning. I'm sitting outside of Johnny Rockets trying to update, all of our stories. You and I are all of a sudden recording a podcast with our friend and colleague Mark Lawson.
Yeah, in the hotel room.
In our hotel room at Excalibur.
Right before we're catching a flight back home.
That was a
crazy
bizarre time.
times.
And I remember, going and taking that flight back home and seeing people wiping down seats, people wearing masks. And for me, I'm like, you guys are paranoid. Like, I don't need to wear a mask. I don't need to wipe down my seats. I'm gonna be totally fine. Little did I know what was coming our way over the next now 2 years.
Yep.
But it's just insane to think about that entire week of Arizona, the Pac-12 tournament, how COVID-19 became the hot topic in the United States. Because initially it was just, it's more of a China issue. Yeah, there are some positive cases in the United States, but really the hot areas are like Seattle, I think New York, Washington. Like, well, we're not in any of those areas, so I mean, it doesn't concern me. Like, COVID's not going to be a problem. And like I said, little did I know what was coming our way.
Rudy Gobert touched all those mics and then tested positive. Man,
the whole world got turned
avalanche.
Upside down. And then with the self-imposed ban from the scandal within the program, Arizona couldn't participate in last year's Pac-12 tournament. And Wayne Tinkle can thank Arizona for his nice little contract extension because seedings changed. And so Oregon State was able to go on a run, win the Pac-12 tournament, then get into the big dance, and then go to the Elite Eight.
And then win 3 games this year.
Oof. So, yeah. Well, I mean, Wayne Tinkle was on the hot seat. Wayne Tinkle should give Sean Miller and the Arizona Wildcats a nice little fruit basket for the job that they did. But now that, fast forward to this year, it's a crazy thing. Last year, Arizona was on a self-imposed ban. The future of the program was a little bleak because, what was going to happen? What was going to happen with Sean Miller? What was going to happen next year? Are they going to be on a ban once again? Are they going to lose any scholarships? Now fast forward to today, and we're talking about the Arizona Wildcats being arguably the best team in college basketball.
We are.
And so it's insane to see the job that Tommy Lloyd has done. And I think this is a good kind of segue into a very busy Tuesday afternoon for the Arizona Wildcats. Arizona, they cleaned house in the Pac-12 awards this year. Tommy Lloyd won Coach of the Year. Ben Mathurin won Player of the Year. Pelle Larsson was 6th Man of the Year. And Christian Coloco had a twofer, winning Defensive Player of the Year and Most Improved Player. The only category Arizona did not win was Freshman of the Year. And that's because the only freshman they played this year was Adama Ball. Other than that, Arizona just completely cleaned house in the Pac-12 awards, and it's really a symbol of just how dominant this team has been all year long. And the fact that, so many different people are winning awards. And I'll tell you what, Alec, this is what really made me kind of sit back and realize how deep Arizona is this year. I was surprised that Pelle Larsson won Pac-12 6th Man of the Year over Umar Ballo.
Yes.
The
revelation of Umar Ballo goes overlooked. And Pelle Larsson, they both deserve a lot of credit.
For sure.
We kind of saw Pelle emerge, midway through the Pac-12 schedule of a really good perimeter defender for Arizona, a guy that shoots pretty well from 3. I wouldn't say he's a top-notch 3-point shooter, but you can depend on him to get a couple threes a game, and that's been huge. He had big ones against USC. He had some big ones against Oregon at home when they won that one. Yeah. And when it came down to the wire, I think he had 2 or 3 threes. So you mix in that with his perimeter defense, and it makes sense. But I would have given it to Umar Ballo just because we saw what Pelle Larsson did in the Pac-12 last year. He was already a successful Pac-12 player with Utah last year. Umar Balo was buried on Gonzaga's depth chart and comes to Arizona, retools his body to be leaner, to be quicker, and you can see it now. But you know what? It just shows you, like you said, how deep Arizona is, that we're sitting over here nitpicking over whether or not Arizona's 6th or 7th best player should have gotten an award.
They cleaned house, and the all Pac-12 team also included Zulus Tubelis.
Which, by the way, having 10 players on a first team, it's weird, but whatever. Pac-12 can do its own thing.
Because it's not really first team if you're like the second group on the first team. It's like, okay, so technically you're the second team.
Yeah, but we're going to list 10 players on the first team.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. But the guys that were all mentioned for the Pac-12 accolades, Zulus Tubelis, all Pac-12, Dalen Terry, who was named to Seth Davis's all-glue team.
All-glue guy award.
Which is I'm getting text messages here. But he was named on the all-glue team, also was named the team captain. And, you know, when you hear, like, all-glue team, like, you think of underappreciated players. You think of, you know, guys who aren't the stars of the team, the guys who don't get a lot of the recognition, but they're so damn important. And I think that's a perfect way to describe Dalen Terry is the glue guy, because did he earn any all Pac-12 mentions? I mean, it was what, defensive?
I think he was a defensive.
Yeah. But then he got an honorable mention too. Did he make all Pac-12 defensive team, or did he receive honorable mention for Pac-12 defensive team?
Honorable mention.
Yeah, so he wasn't even like on the team, but if you were to look at the most important players for Arizona, Dalen Terry's probably at the top of the list.
Yeah.
And that's ahead of the Pac-12 Player of the Year. That's ahead of the Sixth Man of the Year. That's ahead of all the other guys like, you know, Christian Coloco. I mean, if Coloco goes down, you feel pretty good about Umar Balo kind of stepping in and you know, he can't do what Christian Coloco does. He can't defend on the perimeter like Christian Coloco.
But you can have a plan.
You have a plan for him. With Dalen Terry, I mean, you can, you know, put in Pelle Larsson into that role, but Dalen Terry does so much for this Arizona team. And he is the definition of a glue guy. And that's why I kind of got nervous there for a second this past weekend when he got hurt and he was hobbling and he was walking off the court against Stanford, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm like, man, if Arizona doesn't have that guy available for March, they're in trouble. But he ran out of the locker room and obviously played on Saturday and is still healthy. But yeah, this is a very loaded Arizona team. And they exceeded the expectations. And we talked about all year long the fact that they were voted to finish in the middle of the Pac-12, fifth in the conference. Our very own Bruce Pascoe voted them to finish 6th. And we look back on this regular season as a very historic one. It's the most wins that they've had to end the regular season since 2014-15. And thanks to the expanded Pac-12 schedule, it's the first time that they finished the Pac-12 slate with 18 wins. So, historic year for Arizona. We are always going to be looking at this year as one of the best regular seasons in program history, without a doubt.
Really hasn't sunk in how
good
it was.
Yeah.
Because you go down the line. I mean, Arizona opened up the season with that win over Michigan that put them on the map. You know, they arrived, so to speak, and then they had to prove it.
Which doesn't really look like a good win.
It doesn't.
Now,
well,
Michigan's not really that good.
No, not number 4, but they're a solid, you know, decent tournament team that can win a game, but certainly not the Final Four expectations that Michigan had at the beginning of the year. And 3 losses. You only lose twice. Once in Pac-12.
Twice in
Pac-12 play.
And then the Tennessee game.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Tennessee.
Undefeated at home.
Top 15 team?
Yeah. Tennessee's a Final Four contender. UCLA is a Final Four contender when they're healthy.
And that was in Pauley Pavilion.
Yep.
All the games that they lost this year are all on the road. So Arizona took care of business, you know, whenever they were at McHale Center. And then they had that one stinker of a game against Colorado, which every team has. So the 3 losses this year, I think, are outside of Colorado are good losses. But then even Colorado, you can make the excuse of, well, they played at altitude. It's Colorado, and the Buffaloes have had Arizona's number in Boulder since 2015. So this is a unique team, and like you said, we haven't really had time to digest it all and really appreciate how solid a year this was. And I think we're still waiting to see what they can do in March, because Alec, you and I have been down this road many times.
We have,
where we say,
as Tucson lifers here,
this is a really good Arizona basketball team. I really think they can go all the way. And then they lose in the first round of the tournament to Buffalo. They lose back-to-back Elite Eights to Wisconsin. They have disappointing finishes in the Sweet 16, and a team that has no business beating Arizona ends up beating the Arizona Wildcats. We've seen it over and over and over again. And my question to you is, how far does Arizona need to go in the NCAA tournament to make this a successful year in the first season of Tommy Lloyd?
I think it's already a successful season. But if we're going to look back and point to this team down the line in history as being one of the best Arizona teams ever, because they have the chance to do that, even if they don't win the national title. If they make a Final Four, I think they'll go down as one of the best U of A teams ever. I think no matter what happens in March, it'll be looked at as a successful building block for Tommy Lloyd. You started the Tommy Lloyd era with this dominant season. He's already proven he can take and be, mold players to his system that he didn't really recruit. So now you just have this foundation. But I think for Arizona fans to truly, truly feel that this Arizona team belongs in their hearts as being one of the best, they have to make a Final Four for that to happen. I don't think heartbreaking in the Elite Eight. It'll be looked at again, as I said. It's a really good season, but we won't have the same fondness of looking back at that team down the line as we would if they made a Final Four.
Well, I think another impressive thing about Tommy Lloyd in his first year at Arizona was how quickly he was able to get all the guys to buy into him. He went to Kirk Kriisa while he was in the transfer portal and said, listen, you're a European point guard. I can make you into a great player because I've coached a lot of great European guards. I can relate to you. I have international flavor. And Kirk Kriisa said, that was a huge selling point was, his connection to international and European basketball. Also, Christian Coloco. I know he didn't enter the transfer portal, but Tommy Lloyd had to come in right away and establish that trust. And Tommy Lloyd recognized the kind of player that CeeLo was and said, I can turn you into an even better defender. Now, this year, all of a sudden, you're seeing Coloco on the perimeter, guarding guards, guarding smaller players, more versatile players. A big part of it is Christian Coloco's commitment to becoming a better player. And he's gotten significantly better every single year that he's been at Arizona. So I'm not going to say Tommy Lloyd is the Christian Coloco whisperer. Christian Coloco is good because of Tommy Lloyd, but Christian Coloco had to buy in to Tommy Lloyd's philosophy and his role with this Arizona team. And one guy, and he actually talked about it earlier Tuesday in his press conference, was Ben Mathurin. And Ben Mathurin said that he had I wouldn't say doubts, but when Tommy Lloyd first got to Arizona, there was a period in time where, he was still trying to figure out Tommy Lloyd and his system, how he likes to play the game. And Ben Mathurin was overthinking a lot of things. And so when you noticed him at the start of the season, and he even kind of carried over into Pac-12 play, he would think about certain moves. Whenever he had the ball in his hand, you could just see the gears in Ben Mathurin's head turning. And when you're playing high-level basketball, you can't have just a couple of seconds to think. Everything has to be on the fly. But eventually, Ben Mathurin, it started clicking for him. And that's why you're able to see this great player, this great shooting guard who went from being this superb athlete who's going to get you at the rim to a guy who is a consistent knockdown outside shooter. And then you add in the all-around game. He's rebounding much better this year than he was last year. You look at his assist numbers. He's one of Arizona's top passers as a shooting guard. So all around, Ben Mathurin has just gotten so much better this year than last year, and a big part of it was trusting Tommy Lloyd and getting on that level to where you're both just one, and everybody's working together as one. And that honestly starts with Tommy Lloyd at the top, and it just trickles all the way down. And I looked at the list of guys who have won Pac-12 Player of the Year. I mean, look at this list. But here's the list, this elite list that Ben Mathurin joins. DeAndre Ayton, Nick Johnson, Derek Williams, Jason Terry, Mike Bibby, Damon Stoudemire, Chris Mills, and Sean Elliott twice. Those guys that won Pac-12 Player of the Year. Ben Mathurin could say he's among the list of those guys. And with that, he's going to be inducted into the McHale Center Ring of Honor.
Well deserved too.
So, yeah, it's just again, we rant and rave about this Arizona team and how good they are, and Tommy Lloyd's philosophy and how much he's changed just the tone of this program and has the trajectory at an all-time high. It's amazing. But, going back to, what we talked about, like how would you classify this season as a successful one? I mean, Tommy Lloyd's already exceeded his expectations. They were a middle-of-the-pack team entering the year. They exceeded those expectations. Now that you're entering March, you're the hottest team, one of the hottest teams in college basketball. You're the best team in the Pac-12. You're going to be a number one seed. At a place like Arizona, your expectations are to get to the Final Four. But the Wildcats haven't been to that in 20 years. So, like, if you're an Arizona fan, if Tommy Lloyd gets the Elite Eight and lose, do you be like, oh, great, like, hell of a season, great job? Or do you be like, damn it, again?
I think
once again, like, we can't get to the freaking Final Four. What is it about this mark that we just can't get over the hump since 2001?
It'll be a combination of both if that happens. I think in the moment it'll be the latter where people are sitting back saying, why can't Arizona get over the hump? And then we'll have the same discussions, that we do about the 2013 team and, the 2014 team that those guys that got to the Elite Eight twice. You'll always have a fondness of looking back on them and be like, those were some really great Arizona teams, but they just couldn't get it done.
Yeah.
They'll fall into that class if they lose in the Sweet 16 or Elite Eight. But back to your point on Ben Mathurin, it's always an elite level guard that gets teams to the Final Four in a national championship. Look at what Baylor did last year. Look at how Gonzaga got to the Final Four as well. That's the key. Kirk Kreese is going to be a make or break piece, but you always need that star to elevate you to that next level, and Ben Mathurin's that player who can elevate Arizona from really good to elite. Where if Ben Mathurin's all of a sudden scoring 20 plus points a game in the NCAA tournament, there's not really a team that can slow him down.
Well, and if you need a bucket, and Arizona has proven that when they're on the road and they're in tough environments, they can go to Ben Mathurin if they need a score. Against Illinois, against Tennessee, against USC. Every time that Arizona has been on the road in tough games this year, Ben Mathurin has always been there to answer the bell scoring-wise. So that's important in the month of March. And all I know is I brought up the USC game. If Arizona plays every tournament game the way they did in that first half against USC last week, yeah, I think this team might be cutting down the nets.
I wholeheartly agree.
Yeah.
You've seen what Arizona does when it knows it needs a good performance, and that's the USC game. I think they realize that the switch can't just be turned on part of the way or for 10 minutes. It's got to be turned on for 40 minutes. And when they do that, like you said, unbeatable. And I think we'll see that in this Pac-12 tournament.
You can trail ASU 16-3. You can't trail Baylor 16-3.
Nope.
Can't trail Kentucky 16-3. So, all right, Pac-12 tournament. It is happening in Las Vegas. Make sure you go to Tucson.com and the Wildcaster app for the latest on our coverage. We'll be out there in Las Vegas, and Arizona will play the winner of Stanford and ASU, excuse me. So they will get the winner of the 8-9 matchup. The Sun Devils, they beat Stanford last week. And the Sun Devils have won 7 out of the last 8 to end the regular season. So I'm thinking we're going to get Arizona ASU Part 3 in Las Vegas.
I'm all here for that.
Yeah.
Have they ever met in the Pac-12 tournament?
Yeah, so as a matter of fact, I believe the last time they met in the Pac-12 tournament was 2008-09. And that year was the Russ Pennell year.
Oh, yeah.
And people were skeptical on if they were going to make the tournament or not. They were like the all-time bubble team. Like they were super fringe tournament team, but they were playing ASU, and it's like, well, if you beat ASU, then you get in the tournament. Well, they lost ASU. James Harden, Jeff Pendergraft, those guys. And the season looked like it was done. Like that's it. The streak is over with. Arizona had made, was it 24 straight NCAA tournaments? And so the streak was in jeopardy. Yeah, they lost to ASU in the first round. And that was the Pac-10 tournament in Los Angeles. But then the committee decides to put Arizona in as a 12 seed. They beat Utah in the first round. The next round, they were supposed to play Pitt. Remember, Pitt had like DeJuan Blair, and like they were a really good team. Yep. But Norris Cole and Cleveland State upset Pitt. So Arizona ended up playing the Vikings in the second round. So Arizona, they got so lucky. They ended up playing Utah in the first round and then Cleveland State in the second round. And then they got waxed by 30 against Louisville in the Sweet 16.
That's right, yep.
They have played ASU in the Pac-12 tournament, in the Pac-10 tournament. So wouldn't be the first time. And Bobby Hurley has these guys well coached, but I don't think it really matters much. I think Arizona's going to win that first game. And, you know, if you win that first game, I think it's safe to say the Wildcats are number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, Joe Lunardi's bracket breakdown has Gonzaga and Arizona both as pretty safe locks to be a number 1 seed. I still think Arizona needs to win that first game, like you said, because I can see a scenario where maybe Auburn runs the table in the SEC tournament, gets that, locks up a 1 seed. Kansas makes a run. Right? Like if Kansas and Baylor, because Baylor's a projected 1 seed right now, if Kansas and Baylor both make the Big 12 championship game, you can make an argument both are deserving of number 1 seeds in the tournament. Same with Kentucky, if Kentucky were to find a way to get all the way there. So Arizona can afford to lose a game in the Pac-12 tournament, but I don't think they want it to be the first one. You know, they could lose in the championship game against USC, UCLA, and still be a 1 seed, but you know, I think we'll end up having Arizona, UCLA, Part 3 in the Pac-12 tournament.
Sign me up.
Because I think Arizona's going to get past ASU or Stanford in the first game, then Oregon, and rumors are flying around that Will Richardson might not play for the Ducks. He had an injury. They were a bubble team, then had some bad losses, and now are pretty much completely out of the NCAA tournament picture unless they win the whole thing and get the automatic bid. So we'll probably see a less than 100% Oregon team, and that would win those two, and now you're in the Pac-12 tournament championship waiting for UCLA or USC. Mm-hmm.
Fun times, man. We're going to have a blast in Las Vegas, and I know a lot of Arizona fans are going to be out there. And I know this, and I know Alec knows this, because when we were booking our flights, all of Tucson was booked.
Yeah, it's going to be
leaving and returning.
Crazy.
Yeah, so a lot of people from Tucson are going out to Las Vegas for the Pac-12 tournament. All right, well, we're going to have all coverage in Las Vegas at the Pac-12 tournament at T-Mobile Arena. Make sure you follow the Wildcaster on all social media platforms. Download the free Wildcaster app today off the App Store and Google Play. And as always, subscribe to the Wildcast podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's officially March Madness.
It's time, baby. This is
basketball.
March. Best time of the year.
Greatest time of the year. And when you couple that with the women's basketball team too, Arizona didn't have the men's basketball team. They didn't get a chance to play in the tournament last year when Arizona went on the national championship run, losing to Stanford.
Yeah, very excited to see what Adia Barnes and company do as an encore. I know they had a rough end to the regular season and in the Pac-12 tournament, but they're going to get Kate Reese back. BYU lost today to Gonzaga in the WCC women's championship game. And BYU is a fringe 5 seed or 4 seed. And so I think you'll still see the Wildcats host next weekend in McHale for the first 2 games.
Knock on wood.
In Arizona, where they've been undefeated at home, or 1 loss at home outside of UCLA. Man, you're looking pretty good if you're the Wildcats, getting Kate Reese back and potentially hosting NCAA tournament games.
I think, venue too, it's a great place to play a game. A lot of people will go to those games too.
Yeah.
And you could sell,
non U of A fans will go too.
Yeah.
McHale, it's a great venue.
And tell people who are fans of other teams, hey, yeah, you're going to be spending the first round in Tucson, Arizona in March. Sign me up. Can I bring my golf clubs too? All right, well, that'll do it for this episode of the Wildcast podcast. That's Alec White. I'm Justin Spears. Again, follow all of the Arizona Daily Star sports content on Tucson.com and the Wildcaster app. And we'll see you from beautiful Las Vegas.